Hi, I'm Rick Dior, and today I'm going to introduce a series I'm going to be doing on sight reading for the snare drum. I'll be using 4 separate books for this series, and there will eventually be well over 100 videos. And what I'll do is I'll come into my studio here every once in a while and record several etudes from 4 different books, ranging from intermediate level all the way up to very advanced. And one version will have a click, one version won't, and they'll be back to back so you can play along with them. Now, I definitely recommend buying these 4 books, okay? You'll see the music on the screen, but it's going to be very difficult to see, so you need to purchase the books. I have no stake in these books whatsoever, but you can get them from Steve Weiss or any other, Amazon, whatever, wherever you buy your books, they'll carry them. And I made sure that they're all still in print. So the first one will be this really great Garwood Whaley book called Musical Studies for the Intermediate Snare Drummer. So this is a book that I use for a lot of my younger students, as well as my even college students who don't have a lot of reading experience, okay? And it starts pretty simple. It's just got 16th notes, quarter notes. It does have odd bars. There's a lot of dynamics. All right, it's that kind of book. It's mostly rhythms, but halfway through the book, you start introducing rolls and drags and flams. Now, this is in a concert style. So all of these will be sort of in the concert style, not a rudimental style. I will do a separate sight reading video series on that later on. But here, for the next year or so, we'll just be focusing on this concert snare drum style. All right, and you'll see it has lots of different rhythms. So even if you're not an orchestral snare drummer or whatever, you can get a lot of benefit out of just reading the rhythms. The next book I'll use will be another Garwood Whaley book called Recital Solos for Snare Drum. Not a very well-known book, but a great book, and it's actually very musical and much more difficult. So these range, again, from upper intermediate to advanced. I wouldn't say very advanced, but advanced. So by the end of the book, you're getting to some really tricky stuff. Some of these you might say, oh, they're impossible to sight read. Nothing's impossible to sight read if you do it long enough, you have experience. Sight reading is the best gift you can give to yourself if you're a professional musician, because if you work a lot, like I do, in lots of different genres, orchestras, Broadway shows, lots of studio work. I play with bands. I play all kinds of big band things and, rock things and all kinds of stuff. A lot of these things at a high professional level are reading gigs. I call them one and dones, where an artist will blow into town and they have a book and you read the book. You just do the show and you're done. And you may never see that artist again. And I've done this with lots of artists ranging from Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles. I mean, I just did one with Mandy Gonzalez, who is in Hamilton recently. And, they just have these books and you just read through them. So I do this constantly, and those gigs tend to pay pretty well. It's not like a normal club gig or something like that. So those are all reading gigs. That's why it's important to do it. The next book, or 2 books I'll be using, are written by the same person, Fred Albright, who was a great educator up north in New York back in the 50s, 60s, 70s. So he wrote 2 really great books. One was called Contemporary Studies for the Snare Drum. And this is a collection of, I would say, almost scientifically dry kind of writings with all kinds of crazy rhythms and difficult rolls and things like that. All right. And I use this for sight reading with a lot of my more talented college students. And finally, the last book that we'll use is called Polyrhythmic Studies for Snare Drum. Now, originally, this was called Rhythmic Analysis. And when I was a kid working on this in high school, it was one of the hardest books that I ever worked on. It's got all kinds of polyrhythms and things like that, kind of like a Frank Zappa kind of thing by the end of the book. If you looked at the black page or a lot of these things, it looks very similar. So again, that is very high level reading. So I would rate these from intermediate or upper intermediate all the way to extremely advanced. All right. So there'll be, like I said, well over 100 of these videos by the time I'm done with this particular series. And then we'll move on to the rudimental stuff, which tends to be a little bit easier. So I hope you enjoy this series. It'll go on for a while, and there won't be any specific order I'll post these in, but they will be labeled Etude 1, Etude 2, Etude 3, and from different books, and I'll say what book it's from, and I'll show you what book it's from. The last thing I want to say is you can slow these down on YouTube by just going to the settings and just, changing the speed. So if you want to slow it down, it's super easy to do that. And I don't know if you know about that, but there won't be videos. There'll just be music on the screen and audio. So you'll be able to slow it down and play with it like that. But most of these I'm doing at the fastest tempo that the composer has written, so you can slow it down. Because when you speed stuff up, it sounds really funny. Slowing it down is actually a little bit better. All right, so I hope you enjoy the series. As always, send me any questions you have, and we'll see you soon.